in it, you'd just kill it then. Just take
That'd
the
be great.
breaststroke.
I'd love to live in that world.
Yeah, well, mate. So you make the team to go to the
Yeah,
world champs, and you win a gold. That's incredible.
yeah. So that was the best international competition I've ever done. I had a race every day, which I'd never done before internationally, and at the World Championships, you can't take it easy in the heats or the semis. You've got to be going max the whole time. So I ended up doing like 15 max effort races throughout the week, and I turned up in all of them and performed.
So did you compete in the 200 individually as well?
Yeah, I did. So I ended up qualifying for that, which was unbelievable given that I only had 3 months to sort of hook into my freestyle and concentrate on it. And I ended up going a time that no one else has done other than Ian Thorpe. So that was the best block of training and the best competition I've ever done.
So that was the time, and you say the one since Ian Thorpe, was that in the actual race or trying to qualify?
That was in the actual race at the World Championships. So at the World Championships, you end up swimming the race 3 times usually. You'll do a heats and a semi-finals and then a final.
Yeah.
And progress through each based on your placing.
Yep.
And I only just made it into the semi-finals by maybe 0.1 of a second.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 16 people that progress through to the semi-finals.
Mm-hmm.
And I realised I'd sort of messed around, took it a little too easy in the semis and in the heats, and I nearly missed it. So that night in the semi-finals, I thought, I'm not messing around tonight. I want to make this final, and I ended up dropping an unbelievable time that no one expected, which was such a great feeling.
So what time was that? What's the time that you did there?
So it was a minute 44.90 seconds.
Wow. And
that's fast.
Mate, silly question. What's the feeling like between swimming fast and not swimming fast? Like, can you feel when you're on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like you feel yourself go faster. You can feel yourself going easier to go the same speed. So it's like an effort thing. So you would dive in and be like, man, this speed's feeling really easy today. Like I'm really on, rather than, churning through the water.
Yep.
And it's a negative. Are you a negative splitter or a splitter? What do you do?
Oh, no one negative splits for 200.
Don't they?
Nah, it's too fast to do. So I'm more of a front end based swimmer. So I'll be going out in almost under 50 seconds at the 100, and then I just try and hold on. So
at the end, mate. Going back to that race, you get into the final, and where did you come in? This is World Championship. This is the best in the world, isn't it? This is like the Olympics.
So this is pretty much an Olympic. Like every country's there, all the best athletes are there in their peak condition.
Yeah,
like it's high pressure. So
this is 2 years, year and a half ago, from when we're talking now.
Yeah, so that was in July 2019.
Okay, so you get into the final. Any other Aussies in that race?
No. So my teammate, who was also doing the 200, because 2 Australians get to do the individual, was Kyle Chalmers, and he missed the finals. So it was just me in there, and I knew a couple of the international boys, but in that environment, everyone's very switched on. Like it's so high pressure, and no one's really chatty because it's such a high.
So let's go.
Stakes environment.
Let's go to that race. Do you do a pre? You're into the final of the 200 meters freestyle at the World Champs. Do you have a pre-swim? How far do you pre-swim before you get onto the blocks?
Yeah, so generally a warm-up for a race will be around 1,500 meters. And it differs from person to person. It's not like there's a set warm-up that everyone does. Everyone has their own personalised warm-up that works best for them.
Yeah.
And do you do, so the morning of that race or the evening, obviously that's when you really want to make sure your food's right, everything's right, your coach is obviously involved.
Yeah.
And you
like
don't,
the hardest thing is in those environments is trying to sleep, because you'll be so preoccupied with what you're doing, with what's on tomorrow or what you did today, that it's so hard to switch off when you're in such a high pressure environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do that?
So like, well, it's something like that I'm still working on. Like I reckon for that week at World Championships, I was sleeping maybe 5 hours a night.
Wow.
Because you're racing at 9 at night, and then you've got to recover and warm down, and you end up getting back to the hotel at like 10:30 or 11. Then you got to have dinner, and then you've got to try and unwind and go to sleep to get up for your race the next day. So
that's incredible. And so on that particular day, you do your pre-swim, you walk out to the blocks, you're lining up with eight of you, so there's 7 other guys, best in the world at that time.
yeah,
When you get onto the blocks, so before you even dive in, you're tactically jumping at the right time is incredible too, isn't it?
yeah, it's on. Like you have to be at that level. You cannot mess up a single thing, or else it's over, pretty much. So,
so the diving
very
in,
high
even for
pressure.
200-meter swim, the dive. I mean, you've got to. That's got to be done exactly right at that stage too.
Yeah, well, if someone comes up in front of you, then you're already at a disadvantage
Okay.
because you've got to catch up to them, sort of thing. So, like everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but you don't really want to have any weaknesses, or you want to minimize your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because the race is under 2 minutes long. Like there's not much room for messing around. Because it's over. It's over before you blink.
And you dive in, and you've only just been doing it. You know, the 200's a new stroke for you, really, in that sense, in that race.
Yeah.
How do you finish?
So I qualified first for the final, which I never thought I would ever do. So I was in the middle of the pool next to people that had swum this race their whole life, and they were the stars of the 200 freestyle, and I was just sort of smacked in the middle as a wild card.
So who are they, mate? Who's the superstars of the 200 in the world at the moment?
So there's so many of us within about 0.5 of a second. There's Sun Yang, there's Danis Rapsis from Lithuania, there's Duncan Scott from the UK, there's a Japanese bloke that, as bad as it sounds, I can't pronounce his name.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like, there's just so many of us within a fingernail of each other.
Any Americans?
And the race, not at the moment. Not at the moment in the 200 freestyle.
Okay.
Yeah. But, like, in the final, I ended up finishing 5th, and it was slower than my semi-final, but the time I did in the semi-final would have won. So I managed to I earned the fastest in the world spot for the year. So I was stoked on that.
That is
incredible.
That is, and even the 5th though, mate. How did you? Yeah, you know, at the end of that race, were you disappointed? Were you happy? How did you look at it?
Oh, absolutely not. Like there was not a single shred of disappointment. Like I touched the wall and like I had no regret. Like I had put in as much effort as I can, and the previous night in the semi-final, I completely spent myself.
Okay.
And I turned at the 150 in the same time as I did in the semi-finals, but I was just so spent from the week that I just didn't have it in me to go again. For the last 50, I was already pretty fatigued. So, and I'm not used. That was the first time I've ever made a final. So,
yep,
it was a new experience for me. So
incredible,
there was no disappointment when I finished. And what matters is I've done it once. Like I've gone that fast once, and people know that. They know that I'm not just sitting in the heats messing around. Like I'm capable of making a final.
Yeah.